welcome to the Triple Play Fantasy Network. I am your host, as always, Kevin Coleman, @theboys_22 on Twitter, where you can find me and DM me and let me know what you're doing. And on today's episode of the channel, what we're going to be talking about is your late round wide receiver targets. So here at Triple Play, we're trying to get you ready for your 2021 fantasy football draft. I know not everybody is a degenerate like me, has been doing drafts forever. So we're going to be looking at late round running backs. If you missed wide receivers. If you missed the running backs video, which we released this last week, go check our YouTube channel out. You can find it there. And I went through 5 guys at the running back position that I think would be good. Now we're going to go through wide receiver targets. Now, as always for this, I say late round, but these are guys that are going into the later round, and some of them are early. So we're going to start from the top, kind of mid-tier to the lower guys, some guys that you should take a shot on. And as always, these are guys that I think could fill a role for your team and all have value. So again, everybody's out there. I think the wide receiver position is one of the deepest positions that we see in fantasy football right now. And if you're in one quarterback leagues, you're taking running backs early. Trust me, that tier breaks big time. So you want to take those running backs early, and then you're going to grab some of these guys to be your wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2s, and there's value there. Okay, and that's what we're kind of going through. So first guy we're going to be talking about is Diontae Johnson. I love Diontae. You know, his Superflex ADP right now, he's going as wide receiver 25, and one quarterback is wide receiver 21, which you may think, hey, that doesn't seem like it's too far of a reach. But, you know, last year when you look at what he did, he finished as wide receiver 18. You know, his 209 fantasy points per game. He had 88 receptions, 144 targets, guys. 144 targets, 923 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Now, you'd like to see the yards go up, especially with how many targets that he saw and how many receptions he saw, and we'll get into kind of where he's at as a wide receiver. But if we look at the Steelers as a whole, so you have Juju there. He got 97 receptions, 128 targets last year. Chase Claypool is there, 62 receptions, 109 targets, 873 yards, and 9 touchdowns. James Washington is there. Eric Ebron is there. Pat Freiermuth is there. I want to give a shout-out to my guy, Isaiah McCoy. He's someone I really like. I think in Dynasty Leagues, you should stash him. I loved him coming out of college. He obviously is an undrafted free agent, so he's got a long shot. But he's a guy that I like in this offense, especially if Juju leaves later next year. He's a Dynasty guy. But back to Diontae. So let's talk about Diontae and why I kind of like him. So he excelled in all the metrics last year. So when you're looking at what he did, he's a former third-round pick. He Devontae Adams last year had the highest rate of expected top 12 finishes, which was at 62%. But Diontae Johnson is right behind him at 54%. Last year was not a fluke. All right, so when you're looking at what he did, he was 8th in top 24 finishes, and he was 13th in top 36 finishes in fantasy football. So when you're looking at what he is expected to do next year, right now he's getting drafted as a wide receiver 21, 25-ish in that range. He has wide receiver 1 potential. He is my dynasty wide receiver 12 right now. He's a wide receiver 1 to me in dynasty formats. Now when you're thinking of like, okay, what are we worried about with him? Well, we're worried about Claypool, right? But you got to make sure that he's going to do that. So Claypool could take that next step, that second-year leap, right? But I don't think that's going to be at Diontae's expense. I think Claypool will take more away from Juju because I really think that, you know, Claypool is going to get moved around a lot. You're going to look at kind of where his volume is going to come from, especially in the 3 receiver sets. I think that Juju takes more of a hit from Claypool than Diontae does. The thing about Diontae you're going to see is that he's going to take that 3-year leap, right? We always talk about, hey, who can make that difference? Look at what Calvin Ridley did. Look at what Chris Godwin did that 3rd year. Johnson could be that next guy in line, and he's about as cheap as you're going to get him this year. Last year in Dynasty Leagues, he was going for a first-round pick. You can probably get him for a little less than that right now, and your volume and what you're going to get from him could be a wide receiver 1, guys. Like I'm stressing this enough. Diontae is one of my guys. And that he could break out and do that 3rd-year breakout, especially in that offense. I know they got Najee Harris, but they're still going to throw the ball. They're going to get short passes to Diontae. The drops don't concern me. Everybody drops balls. I think they're a little bit overblown to me with Diontae. He's going to get the targets. Look at what we did last year. Just look. Okay, he got 144 targets. He's going to get more touchdowns. He's going to get more yards. He's a baller. He's a guy that I'm going to put on my teams, and where he's going right now is an incredible value. So I'm all in on Diontae. I think that he can definitely do that. My next guy is Robert Woods. Bobby Trees, man, he is the ultimate undervalued guy every year. I think we talk about him. But even right now, in Superflex ADP, he's going as wide receiver 24. In one quarterback, he's actually going as wide receiver 30. Let me say that again. Wide receiver 30. What are we doing here, guys? His 2020 finish, he finishes wide receiver as a wide receiver 1, a wide receiver 12, 237 fantasy points. 90 receptions, 129 targets, 936 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And I want to reiterate that he did that while he had Jared Goff as his quarterback. Okay? It's a little bit different this year, right? Now, depth chart-wise, Cooper Kupp, still going to be there, right? Deshaun Jackson, I'm not really necessarily worried about him because he can't stay healthy. Van Jefferson is there. Tutu Atwell is there. Tyler Higbee should see a little bit of a bump. But in reality, when you look at this roster, Robert Woods is going to be the guy. Now, I think there is some inconsistency issues, but I think that's going to be placated by him having Matthew Stafford there. And when you look at kind of where he excelled at, so last year, Sean McVay dialed up 33% of play action. 33% of his plays were play action, right? Compared to the Lions, 24. So when you think of this, on play action passes, Stafford last year completed 60% of his passes. He averaged 8 yards per attempt and 11 yards in the air. Goff only averaged 6.5. That is disgusting, by the way. So what McVay wants to do in that offense with Akers, with Henderson, those running backs that are there, Stafford leads into that. Now, who's he going to throw the ball to? He's going to get it to his deep ball, his deep threat, which is going to be Robert Woods. Stafford is one of the best deep ball throwers in the league. He's completed a league-high 11 passes, thrown at least 50 yards in the air since 2009, okay? No other cornerback has done that in that time period. So you're going to see Stafford push the ball downfield, okay? Goff ranked 32nd in the league with 27.1% deep ball percentage. That's disgusting, right? Whereas Stafford actually had 42% of his deep balls who went to Kenny Golladay, missing over 75% of the season, even when he did that. So you're looking at Robert Woods being Kenny Golladay, essentially, in that offense, healthy, in a better offensive system, and with a better quarterback. Sign me up for Robert Woods all day. And according to this, when you're looking at it, okay, over the last 2 seasons, Robert Woods has finished outside the top 65 in catchable pass percentage, but if you subtract uncatchable passes, he's ranked in the top 12 over the last 2 years in true catch rate. For all my spreadsheet guys, you guys should love Robert Woods. He is a stud. He got an improvement at quarterback. He's going to get a majority of the targets. I would honestly say that he's going to be the target leader on that team. Go grab Robert Woods. You can grab a wide receiver. He's going as wide receiver 30 right now, probably maybe a little higher in redraft. I'm still grabbing him. He realistically could be a guy that you grab as your wide receiver 2 or 3 and put up wide receiver 1 numbers. He's chronically undervalued. Every year, everybody fights for the youth. I'm taking him, okay? I'm going there. I'm going there with him. Now, our next guy here is Rashod Bateman. Now, again, redraft this could be risky, but there's always these guys. We saw with Jefferson last year. CD would have probably done it too had, Dak been there. Ayuk was there. Rashod Bateman is kind of my rookie this year, and we'll talk about, I know there's things to talk about for why maybe you would want to fade him, but I'm not doing that. Superflex ADP right now, he's going as wide receiver 41. Wide receiver 41. His one quarterback, he's going as wide receiver 37. He didn't, obviously, he was a rookie. He's a rookie this year. His college, you see his numbers. We kind of know all his numbers. Now, let's talk about the depth chart. I'm not worried about the depth chart. Marquise Brown is there. He had 100 targets last year, but I think the Marquise Brown truthers out there are starting to realize that Marquise Brown is a very fine wide receiver, but he's not a wide receiver 1. Then they got Sammy Watkins, Devin Duvernay, Miles Boykin. Really, what you got to worry about is Mark Andrews. He's essentially the wide receiver 2, kind of like Kelsey with the Kansas City Chiefs. Nick Boyle is there, Josh Oliver. I'm just going to give you a shout out because I still believe in you. But in reality, Bateman is going to be the top go-to guy for Lamar. Now, there's a lot of people sleeping on Lamar right now. They're very upset with him. With their high running back system. I understand that. So when we think about this, they're going to be a run-heavy running back area. But I think Rashod Bateman's going to get a majority of these targets, and he's going to score touchdowns. And I think that's the underrated thing we're talking about. When you look at those wide receivers and you see kind of the distribution, hey, Marquise Brown had 8 touchdowns. That's probably going to go down a little bit for him. 2 touchdowns for Sammy, and Mark Andrews had 7. Realistically, you could see 7, 8, 9 touchdowns for Rashod Bateman. Red zone, what he's able to do on the field. Why not grab him? Look at where he's going. I mean, wide receiver 41, that is insane. Okay, I think that he's going to get the volume. He's going to get the targets. He's going to be there. He's going to be in that offense. And I will take his talent over Sammy Watkins and Devin Duvernay all day. That's just kind of how I feel. I think they're going to scheme better. They got to be more multidimensional. They cannot just run the ball all the time. So I'm buying that. I'm buying Rashod Bateman at his price and what he's at. Now, our next guy is, again, I feel like he's always on these lists, is Brandin Cooks. Right now, he's going as wide receiver 45. 126.0 is his Superflex ADP. Is one quarterback. He's going as wide receiver 45. Last year, he finished as wide receiver 27, 192 fantasy points. 81 receptions, 119 targets, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. You're talking about the Texans. The problem is just how depleted they are, and we don't know about that quarterback situation, right? Now, as far as receivers and tight ends, Randall Cobb, Kiki Kuti, Chris Conley, Jordan Akins, Waring, Nico Collins, Isaiah Coulter, all these guys, like none of those guys equals Brandin Cooks' talent. Brandin Cooks is there. So Will Fuller left. We know that helps Cooks' fantasy value. Cooks caught 29 of 41 targets and 431 yards and 3 touchdowns when Fuller was gone. So you saw a big increase in his target share. Now, he's a target hog during that span. So he had a 29% target share when Fuller was out of there and a 45% air yard share. They didn't really draft anybody. They have Nico, who I like as a Michigan guy. I know he's there, but they're going to be there. Okay, I mean, I don't know what to tell you about Cooks. He's going to get the targets. I'm not necessarily worried about the quarterback situation. If Deshaun is there, great. I mean, I obviously that's the optimistic case. If he's not there, they have Tyrod Taylor still there. I mean, he's a very capable quarterback. And who are they going to get the ball to? It's going to be Brandin Cooks. So I'm okay with taking that risk, especially at where he's going. Okay, look, just wide receiver 45, guys, in both aspects. I mean, come on. I mean, he finished as a low-end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 last year. That's value, okay? Cooks is there, and he's still a valuable receiver. He stayed healthy last year for the most part. We've seen that with him. Like, that was what people were worried about, but he's a very solid receiver that doesn't get a lot of credit that I think that he should. He should get credit for what he's been able to put up. So I'm buying him at that price. I think, hey, he's got a good value, and he's a great trade target right now for guys out there, okay, because his value is incredibly low. Now, my next guy that's getting drafted where he's at is kind of my long shot, but that's Darnell Mooney. I know everybody's on the Gabriel Davis train from Buffalo, some other guys out there, but Darnell Mooney is preened for just a breakout season. Wide receiver 56 right now and 57 in one quarterback leagues. Last year finished as wide receiver 50. He had 61 receptions on 98 targets, 631 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He had a pretty good year. And when you look at where he's going compared to like Denzel Mims and some of these other guys that I like, and Pittman, you know what? Mooney might not be a bad shot. You know, an important factor to look at when you talk about Mooney is just what he was able to produce with probably some of the worst quarterback play that we've seen from a team. You know, he garnered 29 most potential air yards in the NFL, but he ranked 10th in unrealized air yards because he couldn't get the ball. You saw Mooney last year, how wide open he was on tape and what he did. He's wide open, but Trubisky and those guys could not get him the ball. So when you're looking at what he did, he only had 2 drops on 100 targets as well. He's sure-handed. He catches. He gets open. He wasn't responsible for those missed air yards. The quarterback play was responsible for that. 73 of his 98 targets were catchable. Think about that. Only 73 of his 98 targets were catchable. So if you adjust his catch rate, that's 83%. And in 20 of those targets were contested, and overall the passes thrown were not thrown in stride. So he's a 96th percentile in speed. He gets open. He has sure hands. The one thing he lacked was a quarterback. And oh my gosh, he has a quarterback now. We got Justin Fields out there. Get rid of the Andy Dalton stuff. You don't trade up for that guy to save your job. Justin Fields is going to be getting him the ball, and I am all in on the Mooney train. That's my guy right now in terms of this. Now, when you're looking at who he's competing with, obviously Allen Robinson is there, and Allen Robinson is a clear wide receiver 1. So when we're talking about Mooney, we're not talking about him being as wide receiver 1, but we are talking about value. He's going as wide receiver 56. He's going to beat those numbers. I guarantee it, okay, as long as he stays healthy. Anthony Miller's there, but I think we all realize that I think that train has kind of flown by. DeMar Byrd is there. Riley Ridley is there. Marquise Goodwin didn't play last year. He opted out. Cole Kmet's there. Jimmy Graham's still there. I don't know how, but they have like 17 tight ends. But in reality, really, it's Mooney and Robinson, guys. Those are going to be the vocal points here. If Mooney can do what he did last year, create separation, catch the ball, get open, all those things that we've been talking about him being able to do, and Fields can get him the ball, this is one of the best values and long shots that I think that has the ability to be in that wide receiver 3 range. And hey, maybe low end wide receiver 2 if he has a great year, right? And he can score touchdowns. And I think he's going to get a high volume of targets. I think that's where it's going to be. So he could have had last year 70 catch, 800 yards, 900 yards, 5-6 touchdowns, which would have already put him at wide receiver 30. Imagine what he's going to do with a better quarterback within that quarterback will make that system better, right? Okay, so that's who I'm going after. So those are the 5 guys that I'm very high on in terms of like some late round wide receiver targets. So Diontae Johnson, Robert Woods, Rashod Bateman, Brandin Cooks, Darnell Mooney. All of those guys tend to have great spots, great systems, great value in terms of where they're going right now. So again, in the comments, let me know what you think about these guys. These are guys that I definitely take a look on. Even in best ball, I think these are great assets. And in all formats, I like these guys, just like the running backs series that I did earlier. So I appreciate you guys listening. Please, as always, make sure you subscribe below. Tell us how you're doing. Let us know what you think. And until next time, we'll be doing quarterbacks next time. I can't wait to show you who my 5 late round quarterbacks are.